week we or was it last week? I think it's still this week. I think on Tuesday we spoke about understanding and analyzing a project brief. So now you've understood the brief. What next do you do? Right? Like, how do you start a design project? You'll be given a brief, you now understand the brief, like the project brief. Now, how do you start that project? That is what we'll be talking about today. I received quite a lot of questions from newbies among us, and they want me to like put them through on how to do it. I can actually understand, because if you're just starting this field, if you're just starting out to this field, you really do not have an idea on how to go, like step by step guide on how to go about starting a project. You just see that people design, like what are the stages, what are the steps they take before you actually see that I designs they post or you see on the portfolio. So that is what we will be discussing today. This session would actually be more useful for, or more important to, the newbies among us, that is people that are still finding the way around understanding how to start. Now they understand the project brief, that is no longer their problem, right? What the main problem they're facing now is how do they start the project. So that is why we are going to talk about getting started on a project today as a designer. How do you start working on a project? All right, so permit me to share my screen. All right, I'm sharing my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen now? Can you guys see my screen? Okay, yes. So okay, I got a lot of yes. All right, awesome. So let's start. Um, okay, starting a design project, an end-to-end guide on how to start a project as a newbie or beginner. So let's dive into it. User research. So if you are starting a project, like I mentioned, we don't really need to go back to how to your project brief, how to understand it. We've actually treated that. So now let's talk about, now you want to start that project, right? So the first thing you need to do is your user research. Now you understand the project brief and you've gathered the business requirements from the stakeholders. The next thing to do to start your design project is what we call user research. And there are basically two types of research methods, right? The first one is quantitative research and the second one is qualitative research. So in an interview, if you are a designer in an interview, like they ask you, some interviewers ask, like, what which research method did you use for on this project, and why did you use that particular research method? Okay, if you said you decided to use quantitative research, why did you use quantitative research? What led to that decision? And if you said you used qualitative research method, why did you use qualitative research method? What led to the decision? So there are basically two types of research methods, and they have you should have a reason for using anyone you're using, and the type of research method you'll be using will be based on the kind of projects you're working on. So the first one, we have quantitative research, which is using online survey form and questionnaires to get feedback from the prospective users. We have Survey Monkey, we have Google Form, we have a lot of questionnaires, online survey form that you can use to get feedback from prospective users, right? That is if you want to do quantitative research. Now, qualitative research, that one is about a virtual or physical interview with the potential users. I mentioned quantitative, you should know the difference. Quantitative is all about gathering data and information from potential users using online survey form, like we have the Survey Monkey, Google Form, and all. While the qualitative research is about meeting them physically or a virtual way. Like you can use Google Meet. We have Google Meet, we have Zoom, right? So it's all about you interviewing them. Then you have to ask them questions. And I have a PDF. I have a document on interview questions, the right interview questions and approach, like approach on how to ask your potential users or your users interview questions. So I have that document. I'll share it immediately after this session. I'll share it on the general channel in the Slack workspace, right? So quantitative is all about online survey form, while qualitative is meeting them physically or virtual form of meeting them to interview them by asking them questions, right? So also quantitative research can be called survey research due to the way it's being done, because it doesn't need your physical presence, or you don't even need to be there at all. Why qualitative research needs you to observe and interpret, because it's either you're there physically or you are there virtually, but you are there asking questions. Now I think we understand what user research is all about. Now that is the first step. That's the first thing you should do if you're starting a project as a designer. This is what you're doing first. After you've gathered the business requirement from the stakeholders and you have the project with and you've understood that. So this is your first step now, user research. Let's move on. Now, this is an example of both type research methods. Here we have, on my left hand side, we have the quantitative research, and on my right hand side, we have the qualitative research method. This actually deals with, you see the form like ticking which one is the answer, or whatever. Then qualitative is like you're meeting them and then you're interviewing them like an interview, you're asking them questions and they're answering. All right, so let's move on. Then the next step you're taking is you need to analyze the data from the research. First, you're conducting your user research. The next thing to do is to analyze the data from the research. After you're done with your research method, the next thing to do is analyze the data you got from the research. What you received from the potential users will guide your design decision. At this stage, you need to put together all the feedback you received from your potential users, maybe via the physical interview or virtual interview or the survey form you used. You just need to put everything together, right, and analyze it. Right, you need to know, you need to prioritize the feedback based on what you got. Now also in this stage, this is where you also map out your user persona. What is a user persona? A user persona is basically a demographic of a semi-fictional character you see as potential users of the product you're about to work on. So the data you are deriving from your research will be a guide in creating your user persona. Do you guys understand? So you're taking it a step at a time. First, you've done your research, you've conducted your user research. Then the next thing is to analyze the data you receive from that research. And that data would actually help you informing your user persona. The personal data do not need to be real data. That is the name, age, and bio. It doesn't need to be real data. You're not using real person, right? But what you are doing is you are creating a semi-fictional character of your potential users. You are creating semi-fictional characters of your potential users, right? That is what user persona is all about. In our classes, you'll still be taught like in depth of how to create user personas. You'll still be taught that, you will have in depth, because there are still, we have our curriculum and we haven't gotten to that stage, right? So we will get there in our classes. So you'll be taught by the mentors how to create your user persona in details. But yeah, I'm just giving you an overview of how to start a design project. Good, awesome. So now, like I mentioned, your personal data do not need to be real data. You can create an imaginary name, an imaginary age, a social life, like everything should be from imaginary, right? Their bio, it's fine, right? But now there's a place where you don't need to create imaginary, because the from your user research, you would actually get feedback. You get feedback from their pain points, right? The frustrations, their goals, what they want to achieve using that product, the goals, and the barrier. What are they facing? What barrier are they facing when they are trying to achieve that goal. So those ones need to be real. That one you can't use imaginary, you can't create any imagination from that one, right? So that one needs to be real. Now let's move on. What a user persona should consist of. A basic user persona data should answer these three simple questions. Who are they? What are their goals? What are the barriers preventing them from achieving their goals? In your user persona, in this project you're actually working on, your user persona should answer these three simple questions. Who are your users? Whether they are millennials or they are Gen Z or they are Gen X, you should know. And also, what are their goals? What do they aim to achieve by using this product? And what are the barriers preventing them from achieving that said goals? What is stopping them from achieving the said goals? And that is what everyone knows as pain points. I'm sure you've been hearing pain points, users' pain points. Okay, exactly. What are actually their pain points? Pain points basically also means what barriers are preventing them from achieving said goals. Do we understand? Now, these are examples of user personas. This is just how it will be, right? So I created this in some of my projects that I did some time ago. So these are examples of user personas, and these are all the things you also have in your case study. As you're writing your case studies, these are the things you would have in your case studies, right? Your personnel needs to be in your case study, your user personnel. So like I mentioned, we already know, I believe we now have an idea of what a user persona is and how you came about your persona, like how you created your user persona. And this is an example. Now, the next thing to do is to frame your problem statement. Let's go back. Let's revise on what we did earlier. First thing we did was to do what? Our user research. We conducted a research, whichever one you choose to do, maybe qualitative or quantitative, right? The second thing you did was to what you did what you analyzed the data you received from the research, and you also did what you actually crafted your user personas from that data, and you know the questions your user persona should answer. Now, the next thing to do now is to frame the problem statement. Immediately after you're done with analyzing your research data and creating your user personas, the next thing to do is to frame the problem statement using the how might we technique. This how might we technique, that one is another subject for another day. You need to, but you can make research about that on your own. Like, I told you guys, like, you should actually be ready to learn outside the classroom environment. So you need to read about creating a problem statement or crafting a problem statement using the how might we technique, because trust me, it is the best technique you can use to craft a problem statement for your design project. Right? Good. Now, at this stage, you need to think and construct a problem statement based on all the information you have, starting from the project brief, the data you gathered from the research, and the frustrations your personals are experiencing. Framing a problem statement shows you are a step closer to solving the problem. It is a problem-solving approach, right? So when you get to this point, it's only talk about something like you are a step closer to solving that problem. And yeah, you're making use of all the information you have, right from your project brief to the data you gathered from the research you conducted and the frustrations your personals are experiencing, right? So now, your problem statement also needs to consider these questions, like answer this question: what is the problem? In putting together your problem statement, you have to consider these three questions I listed below. What actually is the problem? Why is this problem worth solving? And lastly, in what circumstances is the said problem occurring? Right. So now you would know, like, this actually needs you to have a form of session, a problem statement session, like a form of session with your team, right? It's not something you can do alone. You have to brainstorm with your team to craft the problem statement, then also think about why the said problem is worth solving and in what circumstances is this problem occurring. Do not forget, the good thing about design is that you're making use of something to do something. You are making use of the feedback, the data you gathered from your research. That is what would actually help you in crafting this problem statement. You are not doing anything offhand, right? So you don't need to be scared. You are not doing anything offhand. You are making use of your data, the data you received from your research, the feedback you gathered from your research. That is what you are putting together to craft your problem statement, right? Good. So the next thing, after you've framed your problem statement and you considered that three questions I listed, what is the next thing to do? The next thing to do is to what? To brainstorm on the solution and create project goals. Now you and your team, you have to go on a brainstorming session. Might be 30 to 40 minutes meeting to brainstorm on the best possible ways to solve the problem, right? Yeah, you have to brainstorm on the solution and also create project goals, because creating the project goals would actually help you to know what you are to do. So now you don't have to waste time on anything, right? You've crafted your problem statement. The next thing to do is to what? To brainstorm on the solution and create project goals, right? You also create your empathy map. After you frame your problem, you also create your empathy map, right? You create your empathy map, and also like that three questions I actually put in the former slide, you need to your empathy map also should also answer those three questions. Now you're brainstorming on the solution. You go on a meeting, a session, a brainstorm session with your team, right? And in this brainstorming session, you pen down stuff. I mentioned in the last meeting that you should have a notepad as a designer. Do not you don't know you can't do without having a notepad or a jotter. Even if you don't have a digital notepad, it might be a jotter, a form of a physical jotter or a book, right? You need to have where you write ideas down. You need to have a book that it is to you alone. It's your personal belonging as a designer. So go on a brainstorming session with your team, create a 30 to 40 minutes meeting to brainstorm on the best possible ways to solve this problem. In this brainstorming session, always have a notepad to write down your ideas. And don't forget, no idea is a waste. Write it down as it comes to your head. Do not trash any idea because you feel it doesn't make sense. No. The more the idea comes to your head, the more you write it down. Every possible ideas that comes to your head should be written down, and you share it with your team members. So you guys we look at it together and then prioritize the best possible solution to the problem. So, like I mentioned, it's a teamwork. You get it's a teamwork, and that is why we actually grouped you guys to into teams. Like you're working together, the UI and UX designers, you're working together. So this is a teamwork, and nobody should be left out. So you are brainstorming together.
One night was Friday night.
You're brainstorming together as a team, right? And like I mentioned, no idea is a waste. Write down your ideas as it comes to your head. I do not trash any idea because you feel it doesn't make
one, page two.
Can anyone hear me? Can anyone hear me? Okay. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Okay, everyone is hearing me. Please mute your mic. Mute your mic. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. Sorry about that. Let's go back to our presentation. Now we said brainstorming on the solution and create project goals. Like I mentioned, do not waste any idea and do not trash any idea as and think, oh, because you feel it's a nonsense. No idea is nonsense when it comes to design. Pen down everything that comes to your end because you would actually need it, right? So, and here is where you also create the project goals. In this project, what are your goals? What do you aim to achieve with this design? This will actually lead you to the next step, which is paper sketching. Guys, trust me, this brainstorming session is really, really important with your team. You need it. It's not something you say you're not available for. When you get to this point with your team, please create time to go on this brainstorming session, to have this brainstorming session rather with your team members, because this is where you are actually now this is where you already understand the problem. You've crafted your problem statement, right? And you've drawn out your empathy map, and now you are now a step closer to solving it. That is you bringing out the solution the way it comes to your head and based on the data you have, right, from your research. Also, this is the stage where you create your project goals. What are your goals? What do you aim to achieve with this design? As a designer, what are your goals? In every design project, you need to have a goal, right? You need to have a goal. That is, maybe you are trying to simplify the journey. You are trying to simplify a purchase journey, right? But there should have a that you should have a goal, right? And this is where you also create your project goals. Okay, let's move on. Now, paper sketching. After going on the brainstorming session with your teammates, now you start sketching down the prioritized ideas based on the solution you created from your brainstorming session. I mentioned, right, having a pen and a paper, right? Because even if you don't pen down ideas, you still need it to actually sketch. You sketch out your design in your sketch pad or a paper with a pencil and conduct a low-fi prototype and testing. Yes, there's also paper prototyping. You conduct prototype and testing at this stage as well. You don't only test when you get to, excuse me, to the IFE, you also test at this stage, right? So paper sketches should be tested to know if the design is actually solving the problem. At this point, if you're testing at this point, you can easily iterate. Design is all about iterations, corrections, right? So at this point, when you are still sketching out your interface on paper, you should prototype it, like see how it connects. That is, you are having different screens on paper with your pencil, right? And then you should see how it connects. This also, you're going on a session with your team, the prototyping session and testing session with your team members, so you guys can see how your solutions connect, or you could see if your solution is actually making sense or if you're solving the problem. Now, these sketches should also reflect the solution in its entirety and the goal you're trying to achieve, which is maybe simplifying a purchase funnel. Your goal might be you're trying to simplify a purchase funnel, right? Or your goal might be you're trying to simplify the funnel of booking a rider, right? Or actually conducting an exam in a virtual web system. So all these things should start from your paper sketch and prototype. You don't jump to IFE after you're done all the okay, you've done all the necessities of, you've conducted your research, you've analyzed your data, right? You've created your problem statement, you've brainstormed the solution, you've created your empathy map, your user personnel, you've created all that. You don't now jump to IFE. No, you need to start from the foundation, and the foundation is paper sketch. You need to make sketches on paper because it would reflect the goal you're trying to achieve and also the solution. Now let's move on. Now the next thing is to do what? Create low-fi wireframes. Now you have tested your sketches and you've prototyped it, and you guys have agreed, like you've iterated based on the feedback from your team members. You guys have actually, you've had a session to look at the paper sketches, right? And you've made necessary iterations. So the next thing to do now is you now move ahead to create the low fidelity wireframes, and this gives a better and clearer view of the solution you are creating, right? So this low-fi wireframes, it gives a better view of the solution you are creating. Some people use balsamic, right, for the low-fi, while some use Figma. I use Figma, right? Guys, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. It's distracting. Okay, as I was saying, now you're creating your low-fi wireframes, right? It gives a clearer view of the solution you are creating. And after you've created your low-fi wireframes on Figma, you know low-fi wireframes where it's just gray and white. Then after you've created that, you've tested that as well, the next thing to do now is to what? Create your high-fidelity design. Now you're done with your wireframes, you've tested it as well, and now is the time to start turning your low-fi to high-fi. Your low-fi as well, you also have to test it. You have to test your low-fi wireframes as well to see if you're actually on track, because you keep iterating. Design is all about iteration. You keep making necessary iterations, right? That is corrections. So now you are now at the point of creating the high-fi design, right? You're done with your wireframes and you've tested it. Now is the start. Now is the time to start turning your low-fi to high-fi designs. Yeah, you choose colors, you choose your typeface, you use the right images and illustrations to portray the right sense of feelings and communication with your users, right? Do you understand? So this is the point where you now start choosing your colors, your the right images to use, the illustrations to use to portray sense of feelings and communication with your users. And then the next one, the final one rather, you prototype and you test. Yeah. So now you finally got it to almost the end of the project cycle. Here is where you prototype your screens and conduct usability testing, and then iterate on your designs based on the feedback received from the user testing session. Right. After you're done with your iFi designs, you've actually you've chose the right colors to use, the right images, everything, icons and all. And now you are now to do what? To prototype your screens. All your designs, you prototype is the screens, the iFi. And also after you're done with your prototype, you conduct your usability testing. And in your usability testing session, try to always note down the feedback the users are giving. You give them a form to fill, right, to put out their feedback. And once you iterate your designs based on the feedback, right, you get the feedback. The most are always positive with some sort of, okay, I feel this can actually go this way, or blah 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 blah. But there will always be something to work on, right? And that is why testing is really important. The way research is important in a design circle, in a project circle, that is also the way testing that design is really important in a project circle. You need to test it, and you are testing it with real people to know if that design actually solved the problem it was created to solve. Do not forget, design is all about problem solving. Design is all about problem solving. If your design does not solve a problem, it is not a design. Every design should solve a problem. Every design should solve a problem. So that is why testing is really important, because you test it to know if you are actually done the right thing, if you've actually created something meaningful, if you've achieved your goal as the designer on that project. So that is where we are stopping today, because that is all about getting started on a project as a designer. So yeah, let's take questions. All right. So now this is the time for questions, guys. All right, guys. So now it's time for you to ask questions. Please, can I unmute and ask question? Yeah, you can. You can also type it here, just the way you type it here. You can also type it here. How do you create low-fi designs? Low-fi designs are, you create it on Figma. A lot of people use Figma, right? Low-fi designs are like you are about to start designing, but now you are not using colors. You are not using images. You are not using icons, right? You are not using anything that has to do with any colorful thing. You are designing already. You're designing your solution already, but you are putting it in a black and white form. And most people use Figma. Wisdom, please almost me so that I can ask questions. Wisdom, you can actually type your questions, because most of you, your backgrounds are really noisy. So you can actually type your question. Sorry for the inconvenience, right? How can we test prototypes using online tools? There are so many prototyping, there are so many testing tools online. We have Maze, we have usertesting.com, we have user testing, we have prototype, right? There are so many user testing tools online. A lot of them are online, right? Well done. I observe that you didn't discuss on journey map. Is it not compulsory? It is compulsory, but you would actually still be taught. Like I mentioned, what I'm doing tonight is an overview on your project, like overview on how to start that project. Everything that still has to do with details, you will be taught, like you will still be taught. So empathy map is compulsory, journey map is compulsory, and you have to do it, right? And I also mentioned you should also learn to make research outside the classroom environment. That is what makes you a good student. Okay. What's the ideal or recommended user persona pay projects? I don't understand that question. Ugona, if you would like to like explain, elaborate on that question. For empathy map, can we do it with the responses from the survey, or it has to be with the interviews? You can actually do it with both responses from the surveys, and also if you're conducting a virtual or physical interview, you can do it from both. At what point does flowcharts and the likes come in? Yeah, user flow. I actually skipped that. User flow and flowchart are important. At the point that comes in is when you are done with your research and you've analyzed your feedback. That is when you create your user flow, right? You're done with your user research. You've gathered your feedback, you've analyzed it, you've created your project goals. So that is where you create your flow chart and your user flow. Sorry I skipped that, but thank you for reminding me. So there you create your user flow, right? And your flow chart. How do UX designers present this info to the UI designer? Do we present it as a document? Well, no. And that is why you are in a team. You guys need to be there together. And also, yeah, you can also present it in a document. But the best is that you know, in a real team, in a real work environment, you actually have the team always on like on a tool. We have mirror, yeah, miro, we have mirror, we have figma, which figma has figjam, right? So figjam, you all of you, both the UI designer and the UX designers, all of you are there to collaborate on that board, on that whiteboard, right? You're doing everything together on that whiteboard. So you don't let them relax and say, okay, we will bring it to you. No, don't tell them to relax. You are collaborating together, because in a real work sense, there would also be there would all everybody is there, will be on that board, on that whiteboard, to collaborate, to drop ideas. Every session, brainstorming session, problem crafting session, everything is done by both UI and UX designer. So you are all gonna be there, right? Are we going to be giving examples of all this? Explain the empathy map. Yeah, yes. In your design, yes. You are going to have everything in your case study. Yeah. Before the sketching, I think there should be user flow. Yes, there should be user flow. I said I forgot that. Yeah, your user flow and your flow chart. Is Figma the only tool used in product design? No. We have Envision, we have Adobe XD, we have Envision, we have Adobe XD, we have Sketch. Figma is not the only tool. Please, Kemi, can you drop the link to the presentation in the Slack channel? Sure, I will. Is low-fi the same as wireframe? Low-fi means low fidelity. So the low-fi can be low-fi wireframes, or do you understand? It can be low-fi wireframes or low-fi design, because low-fi basically means low fidelity wireframes. Can you please reiterate on brainstorming? Well, brainstorming is all about you and your team thinking, asking yourself questions. You need to start going on brainstorming sessions, because you are a designer, and you are using your brain to do a lot of things. So without brainstorming session, you are not yet a designer, because you need to think, like you need to be able to think on what to do. What can we do here? How can we do this thing? How can we solve this problem? How do we approach this? Those are what you bring out from brainstorming sessions. So you guys need to meet and have brainstorming session, like ask yourself questions, think. So that is what brainstorming actually means. Thank you for presentation. What platforms or apps can be used to create usability tests? I mentioned that already. We have Maze, we have usertesting.com. I've noticed some I've noticed some use case, and I see many UX designer define their research statement and objectives. Can we follow this? Of course, of course, there is no one way, but you should make sure that in your case study, everything needs to be well detailed. Everything I've mentioned and anything you know that okay, this should also be there, it should be well detailed. And like I said, all these things you'll still be taught in classes. You'll still be taught how to create your empathy map, how to create your user persona, everything, your user flow, everything you'll still be taught. So all of them will still you would still be taught, and you have to put it down in your case study, right? So everything has to be there. Your research statement, your feedback, the feedback you gathered, everything, what you learned, your conclusion, your learnings, everything has to be in your case study. Of course, please, Mark, can one still make use of Adobe XD to draw wireframes? Sure, you can. Also, are the UI guys only to work on designs, or are we all work? You are all working from the project from start to finish. I actually mentioned that earlier. You are all collaborating. You're working from start to finish together. At what stage do we need to work with developers? At the stage where you are actually at the testing phase, that is where you work with developers. You work with developers at the user testing phase when you are testing the designs. How do we get participants feedback after the user testing, please? I already mentioned that you can use a form. You can send them a survey form to drop their feedback on it. The number of user personas to be created on a project, you can create 10, you can create 100, as many as you want. Can create, you don't have limitation, but I'm sure you won't want to create 10 and you won't want to create 100. So you should know how many you should create. You talked about testing a paper sketch. Is it by doing the low-fi design? Sketch is sketch. I don't know. Do I have to explain what sketch means? Sketch, like you are sketching something. You are sketching something. That is not low-fi. Yes, yeah, that is still called sketch. It is called sketch because it's still on paper. I said paper sketch, not low-fi. When you are doing low-fi is when you are now using Figma or any tool to design actually, but you are putting it in black and white without using colors, images, and illustrations. So testing your paper sketch, it is not low-fi. It is, you are doing what? You are testing sketch. It is still called sketch. I don't know how to explain sketch, but it is sketch. Yeah, hey, I don't know. Drawing. It is drawing. I'm sure you guys you know how to draw. Yeah, hey, so sketch, that is what it's called too. Good evening, ma. I really appreciate your contribution. The steps to achieving this is really overwhelming. I cannot be well achieved as an individual. But my pain point is this issue of team. When info is passed, no response. How do we achieve this? Okay, I mentioned earlier that if you have inactive team members, please do well to remove them and add people that are ready to participate. We decided to group you guys because we also know working as a designer, you can't work alone. You have to collaborate, and that is why we decided to group everybody. So if you have inactive team members or people that are not ready to participate, please remove them and add people that are ready to participate and work with you, please. For this brainstorming session, does it involve both UX? Yes, for the brainstorming session, yes. Is the research phase to be conducted by the UX designer alone? Or everybody, you are working together, you are collaborating, everybody is working. Both the UI and the UX designer, all of you are working. What is the maximum number you must have before you can truly establish your problem statement using interview? The maximum number, like you mean the maximum response? Any amount you feel is fine. You can create your problem statement with it. Any amount you feel is fine. You can create your problem statement with it. Please, can you shed more light on using mirror? I can't shed more light because you need to watch tutorial. Because I can't theoretically tell you how to watch how to use mirror. You need to watch tutorial. Probably go on YouTube to watch tutorials on how to get started with mirror. I can't explain that with my mouth, right? You can just go on YouTube to watch how to start using mirror, like how to get started on mirror. Please, for the interviews, we sent out a survey from the likely questions we came up with. But at the empath from the likely questions we came up with, but at the empathy map, how do we put down their emotions and response according to empathy map rule? I don't know how to answer this question. You guys are funny with some of your questions. Okay, how do you put down their emotions? Okay, in the slide we have today, I actually have guidelines. So now I said your user research must actually consider those questions, right? So asking those questions too would direct you on how to consider their feelings and putting it down with the empathy map. See, one thing I love about being a designer is that you're flexible. It allows you to do a lot of things. So really, you don't need to be like putting it. I don't need to tell you that, okay, write A, write B, write C. No, I don't need to put it that way to you. I just need to tell you that, okay, this is what this thing should answer. I mean, every feedback you are giving me should answer these 5 questions. So I don't need to start telling you that, okay, you need to start putting it like, what is the no? You should go out of your way to do things like I don't know how to put this. Like, you need to think. Yeah, that is what makes you a designer. You need to think. What do you mean by prototype the high-fidelity wireframes? Okay, connecting screens. That is actually what prototype means. So put it that way. Connect your screens together. That is it. I joined to collaborate and I have not been involved or paired with any team yet. What do I do? Guys, that you have space in your team, please, please. People are out there who need to join a team. Please add them, speak with them. There are people on the Slack workspace who are looking for teams who are ready to participate. Please add them to your team. Good evening. At the end of the call, those that wasn't shortlisted but were part of a team to build products, will they be given certificates or recognized as a grad for Design Bar Boot Camp for Design Pal Boot Camp? Well, I can't answer that yet because if you were not shortlisted, I don't think you'll be given certificates. The aim of the project, the general project, is just for everybody, to keep everybody busy. I don't know if anyone understand what I'm trying to put together here. The aim of the general project for everybody, including the not shortlisted guys, are to keep everyone busy. So it won't look like, oh, we only focused on the shortlisted members for cohort 1 and we ignored the general team. I mean, we ignored the general members, right? So it is just to keep everyone busy. And that project is yours. This grabby project that is for general, it is yours. Nobody will tell you, oh, you didn't do it. It is yours. And that is why we are after you bringing out the best. That is why we want you to bring out the best, right? So, but certificates, no, you are not going to be given certificates or recognized as a grad. Only the shortlisted candidates will be given certificates. But we are also helping you, and that is why we are doing all these general sessions, just to at least do something to help you also, even though you were not shortlisted, but at least you're learning, you are gaining, right? So that is just the idea, the whole idea. As regard research, is it sufficient to use a review of an app to build a research portfolio? Let me read that question again. As regard research, is it sufficient to use a review of an app to build a research portfolio? No. Don't use review of an app. if I'm understanding this question, it means you want to use an initial review that has been done by maybe other teams or other people. That is what you want to use for your own research portfolio. No, you have to conduct your own from scratch yourself. Do these things yourself. Do not copy, do not duplicate people's work. Do this research yourself. Put together the questions. If you want to do interview, I'll send a PDF document. I mentioned it that I'll send a PDF document to the Slack channel on guide on it's all about how to guide you on asking interview questions during research. So everything you're doing, do it yourself. Don't use someone else's portfolio to build your own portfolio. Don't use someone else's review of an app to build your own research portfolio. No, everything that is going to be on your portfolio should be done by yourself. You should do it yourself. Please, the fintech project, is it a personal project for shortlisted candidates? It's for shortlisted candidates. And like I mentioned, all shortlisted candidates too are in a team. They are all grouped. Just the way we have the general team, the general group, shortlisted candidates too have groups. They are all groups too. Okay. But most times those who were not shortlisted don't get information concerning the various classes. Oh, really? I don't think there's anyone that wasn't shortlisted that would tell me that. So if you want to say for yourself, okay, you can say for yourself, but I don't think there was anyone not shortlisted. Only if the person did not follow the instructions that has been given, and we've repeated the instructions like millions of times. Only I am sure the person did not follow that instruction. Most time research makes me feel heavy. How can I lighten this burden? Maybe you want to become a developer. If your research is making you feel heavy, I think you should go into development. Maybe that will make you feel light. All right. So, guys, thank you for coming to this session, and it's nice having this session with you guys. Like I mentioned, everything you have been taught here is just for you guys to have an overview right now, right? To have an overview of how to start your project. So, at least I'm sure with this short right with this short session we had tonight, you've been able to know how to start, like how to get started on your project. Please start. The course is for 12 weeks, and we've done 2 weeks already, if not 2 plus. Guys, please start working on your designs, start working on your projects. There's not much time left. We won't extend the cohort. It's just for 12 weeks, and after 12 weeks you'll be asked to showcase your work. We will have a demo day, right? So please start working on your project. 12 weeks we end April 23rd, so there's not much time. You might be saying it as there's time. Trust me, I am speaking as an experienced designer. There is no much time, because it is when it is now close to that is where you now know that no time, because you are still gonna write your case study. And trust me, some case studies take 3 months to write, just case study. Now you are done with your design. What you just want to do is writing that case study, and you can be on case study for 3 months. That is it. So there's no time. You need to start now. Start now. If you haven't started, please start now. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for tonight. You all have a wonderful evening, and see you guys in class tomorrow. We would have our classes tomorrow as well. So you all take care of yourself. The session is being recorded and it will be uploaded. So no worries. The session is being recorded and it will be uploaded. All right, guys. Yeah. Bye.